DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy, one book, one show, one daily masterclass, all under one umbrella. Ella, that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic, let's talk about positives of abolishing the police. Let's just say that we did actually abolish the police. We've heard many people talking about this. I know I'm not the only one who's heard people talking about this. I've seen some people who I consider to be very smart individuals, people who I think are very intelligent, talking about we need to abolish the police. So today what we're going to do, we're going to entertain this idea of the police being abolished. What are some positives that could possibly come from this? So before we even go any further, let me tell you two things. First of all, I have a text line where I want you to text me. Tell me the most valuable insight you get from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894. Again, 305-384-6894. That's the first thing. Second thing I need to tell you, just to be clear up front, all right, first of all, not only are we not abolishing the police, but this is not only a bad idea, but it's a stupid idea. Okay, so I want to make sure everybody understands that I am not an advocate of abolishing the police. I'm not an advocate of defunding the police. I'm not an advocate of doing anything that lessens the presence and the what's the best word I can use? I don't even want to say power, but just the presence, anything that lessens the presence of police in our neighborhoods and our communities, or the power that they have to control situations, anything that advocates lessening that, I am against it. Okay, we need the police. We need police around. We need them to be doing the things that they do to keep people in check. All right, so I am not an advocate of abolishing or defunding or lessening the effect of the police in any way, shape, or form. And I think I've talked about that from enough different angles here in the past on this show that you understand how and why. Now, what we're doing here today, however, despite what I just said, is we're just going to entertain this idea. What if we did abolish the police? What are some good things that would come out of it? What are some ways that this would actually help society? I thought about this and I came up with something. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. The positives that will come from abolishing the police, because we got to be able to look at situations from all sides, right? Even though I'm not a fan of abolishing the police, and some of the people I've seen talking about abolishing the police, most of whom live in some suburban communities, or they work on some college campus, or they're in some place where they ain't really worried about crime happening because they don't live in high crime areas. I've never seen anybody who actually lives in the hood talking about abolishing the police. But even though these wokesters are talking about abolishing the police from their high perches in places where they ain't got to worry about crime, we can entertain their ridiculous ideas. So there's nothing wrong with entertaining their ridiculous idea just for the mental exercise. We can exercise our imagination. So what good could come from this? I thought of a few things. You interested in hearing them? Good. Point number one. Topic once again, the positives of abolishing the police. Number one, people who have a penchant for talking stupid because they believe, oftentimes correctly, that nobody will smack them in their faces for talking stupid, they will no longer do so. All right, this is the first benefit of abolishing the police, is that people will not talk dumb or act like they ain't got any sense because they no longer have the protection, the mental protection of knowing that if somebody smacks them in their face, they can call the cops and get help. But since there are no cops, now anybody who talks stupid or acts like they ain't got no sense or is disrespectful in any way, shape, or form to another person, you're going to get smacked in your face and there's no recourse. All right? There's nobody you can call. You either had to fight or you just had to accept that you just got smacked in your face and you're just going to have to walk home with that smack across your face. This is a benefit of abolishing the police, because there's a lot of people out here who need to be smacked in their face, but they don't get smacked because people are like, all right, I don't want to get arrested, I don't want to have to go to court, I don't want to get sued and things like that. But with no cops, hey, it's open season. It's open season on people who need to get smacked or punched in their faces. All right, we just did an episode just recently about the benefits of getting punched in the face and punching other people in the face. So if there are no cops, there'd be a whole lot of punching in the face going on that is not happening right now because people are trying to be civil. But hey, no cops, fuck all that civil shit. We just start smacking people upside their head. Now, just recently, this past week, from when I'm recording this, by the time you hear it, it has already happened. But I went to a baseball game in Miami, the Miami Marlins. And it's early in the baseball season, so there was a healthy crowd there, even though the Marlins Stadium had a bunch of seats. Like the majority of the seats were blocked off. So the seats that I wanted us to sit in, we couldn't even get them. They weren't even available for purchase. We go to the game, and the seats that I wanted to sit in were right along the third baseline, right there up against the field, to where like as close to the action as you could possibly be. But they got the seats blocked off. Nobody was sitting in those seats, and there's a whole like swaths of seats. And they announced the attendance at the game. It was like 4,000 people. That stadium can hold probably, I don't know, maybe 15, 20,000 people. But anyway, I'm bringing all that up to tell you this. Another thing is you had to have your mask on during the game, which was it wasn't really, when you just sit there with the mask on for long enough, you get used to it. But we had to have the mask on. Everybody was social distance. So you almost like you're watching the game on TV because you're not around really any people. But anyway, what happened during the game? Since there are no seats around us that can be occupied by people, it had to be at least 10 seats of space in between us and the next, anybody else who was at the game. I had my feet up on a seat in front of me. Now, when I go to a sports game, I don't even go to a lot of sports games because one main reason is, unless I'm sitting in the front row where I can stretch my legs out, it hurts me to sit in these seats because it hurts my knees to have my legs bent for so long. It's kind of like sitting in a regular coach class seat on an airplane. It hurts my knees to be sitting there for so long, so I'm a little bit too tall for that. So I put my feet up on the seat in front of me and stretch my legs out. So while I'm sitting there like that, a security guard comes by, black guy, and he says, hey, you had to put your feet down. And actually, before he says something to me, he was saying something to another guy, this white guy who was about 10 seats to our right and a row behind us. And he's trying to tell this guy, hey, you need to put your feet down, put your feet down. And the white guy saying to him, no. He's like, no, I'm not putting my feet down. Leave me alone. And this guy's a security guard. He's not a cop. He's a security guard. But let me tell you the rest of the story. So after he fails to get this white guy to put his feet in, the dude just told him, no, leave me alone. And after he said it to him a few times, the security guard just walks away. So he comes over to me. He's like, yo, you need to put your feet down. And I told him, no, I'm not putting my feet down. I already knew I was going to tell him no. It was not influenced by the white guy, but the white guy's response was funny because the white guy was kind of like laughing at him while at the same time telling him no. And he comes over to me. He's telling me you need to put your feet down, et cetera, et cetera. And first I just questioned him. I'm like, well, for what? Nobody can actually sit in this seat. They had the seat tied up with a zip tie to where you couldn't even put the seat down and sit in it even if you wanted to. And he just keeps repeating, you have to put your feet down, I'm security, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm asking him, well, why? And he's still not answering the question. And eventually I had some choice words for him. I'm not going to even repeat what I said to him here, but you can kind of guess what I said to this individual. But anyway, he said, if I don't put my feet down, he was going to go get the police, and the police were going to remove me from the stadium. This is the threat that he made to me. And I, again, offered him some more choice words. He left. And one of the ushers who had been watching the whole thing, she's a black woman, very nice woman. She said to me, man, you're going to get yourself kicked out of the stadium over that. And I said, well, kicked out of the stadium for what? What did I do? What rule did I break? And anyway, the security guard does come back. So he wasn't lying that he was going to go get the cop. So he did go get a cop. He came back and he tried to tell me again to put my feet down. And I told him no. The cop comes over. Now, by this point, I had actually stood up because the security guard was behind me when he was talking to me. So I stood up to turn around and address him when I was speaking to him. And by the time the cop comes over, I'm standing up. So now my feet technically are down because I'm standing up. And by the time I sat down, the cop comes over. My feet are still on the ground because I sat down. The cop was actually very nice. Funny thing is, the cop was way, way nicer than the actual security guard. And this goes back to the episode we were talking about fortifying your ego. And let me make sure I refer you to that episode here so you know what I'm talking about. That was episode number 1803, How to Fortify Your Ego. Now, when you are confident in what you can do and confident in your abilities, you don't need to exercise your ego by, proving your toughness or proving your whatever to other people. The cop didn't need to prove anything because the cop knew that I wasn't a threat. The cop could see kind of how that conversation was going. By the time they came over, they're smiling and they're like, all right, are we good here? We're fine. And the cop just walked away. And I said to the cop, listen, does this security guard not have anything else to do? And she laughed and then she walked away. But the whole point of me telling you this whole story is this. All right, if there were no cops, all right, that security guard would have got smacked in his face. All right, that security guard would have experienced the punch in the face that he needs, because for whatever reason, his job as a security guard at Marlins Stadium has him thinking that he has more power than he actually has. And if he had any real power, then he wouldn't need to go get the cop. But now would he? Now, all that being said, these situations, and many of you probably have dealt with these situations. Maybe you went to a nightclub or some kind of venue, and a security guard there or a bouncer there was being a little bit extra. Or you went to some type of business like a CVS or a Walgreens, and the person at the line there was being rude to you for whatever reason. A social media user who has, as they call, Twitter fingers. All right, there are many people in life. I think all of us can agree, even if you're not a violent type of person, even if you're not the aggressive type, I think we can all agree that there are many people walking this earth today who we would agree they need to experience getting punched in the face, but they probably will never experience it because those of us who would punch somebody in the face, we don't want to get arrested. We don't want to have to deal with cops. As I just told you recently, don't do anything that will draw police attention, and nothing can happen to you from a cop. But damn it, some of these mofos need to feel what it feels like to get punched in the face. So one benefit, again, remember the topic. If we abolish the police, then a lot of these people will know exactly what it feels like to get punched in the face because they deserve it. Point number 2. The topic today, again, is the positives of abolishing the police. Number 2. Anyone who, now, actually, let me back up. Some of you might be thinking right now, okay, Dre, well, if we don't have police, all right, some people are going to get punched in the face, and some people who are maybe more aggressive and they're apt to get physical with people, maybe they'll go punching people in the face. But what about the rest of us who are not that type of person? Maybe you're not an asshole who would have somebody wanting to punch you in the face. And you're also, even though you get the concept of punching people in the face, you don't want to go around punching people in the face because that might, if you punch somebody, then they might want to send somebody to punch you, or they might want to hit you back, and then it's just going to be this whole cycle of violence and all this stuff going on. What about those people who are kind of like, you don't make anybody want to hit you and you don't want to hit anybody else? No, what about these people? Well, let's address that. This is the second point. If there were no police, those of us who do not have strong relationships, strong communication skills, or you lack the willingness to defend yourself, the willingness to get aggressive, all right, you're just going to get fucked up. Right? This is what's going to happen. If there were no police and you don't have any relationships to defend you, you don't have strong communication skills to kind of talk to people the way they need to be talked to, or you are unwilling to defend yourself and people note that, you're unwilling to get aggressive and people notice that, you're just going to be out here getting fucked up. That's just all this, that's what it would be. All right, these are all critical life skills anyway, to be clear. I'm not saying this is not about fighting or punching people in the face. In life, you want to have strong relationships. Why? Because those relationships can do more for you than you can do for yourself. Right? How many times in life have you gotten things done through a relationship that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, or would have been a lot harder or took a lot longer for you to do on your own? I'm sure there have been plenty of situations like that. And the more successful you are in life, relatively speaking, there are probably more times you can call on that has happened, that you have leveraged relationships to get things done. How many times have people leveraged you as a relationship to get things done in their own lives? So strong relationships matter whether they're cops or they're no cops. Strong communication skills. You can't build a relationship without communicating with somebody. And strong communication skills allow you to get your point across to another person in such a way that they can understand you there, that you don't have to. You can communicate with somebody verbally or non-verbally without it becoming a physical altercation. You could disagree with somebody, it doesn't have to become a fight, right? Nobody has to get punched in the face. You can talk about it in a civil way, like mature adults, and it doesn't have to get to that level, even if you're not on the same page as that individual. So strong communication skills, again, they matter whether we have cops or we have no cops. A willingness to defend yourself, a willingness to be aggressive. This matters because sometimes in life you're going to come across people who are aggressive. People who are naturally aggressive, people who have weak egos, and they exercise their ego, and their lack of confidence by getting aggressive with other people and leveraging that as a way to feel a little bit of power, as a way to feel like they have a little bit of control. All right, you got to know how to deal with these individuals. And it does not mean you need to try to be as aggressive as they are, because you'll always run into someone who's more aggressive than you. But you need to have a way of letting them know that you are willing to defend yourself. And it doesn't even mean you need to be bigger, stronger, or tougher than them. It just needs to communicate to them that you're not someone who can be bullied or picked on, And that type of person who has that weak ego, they rather go find somebody who will let them bully or pick on them than someone that they have to force it upon them, because that requires them using energy. It's much easier to bully somebody who lets you bully them than to bully somebody who's going to fight back. You understand what I'm saying? So your willingness and ability to defend yourself and or get aggressive, all right, that keeps these aggressive types away from you. They won't bother you because it's not worth the effort. They can go mess with somebody who will not even fight back. So if there were no police, bigger picture here, we're still on point number 2. When you don't have strong relationships, you don't have strong communication skills, or you're unwilling to defend yourself, you're going to get hurt if there are no police. Or you're going to get robbed, you're going to get your house burglarized, people are just going to take stuff from you. There's going to be all kinds of problems happening in your life. But since these are critical life skills anyway, you don't have to worry about rushing and going and getting these, because if you've been listening to this show, you already heard me talk about these many, many times. Without police, all right, these skills, relationships, communication, defending yourself, these will determine whether you survive or not, whether you live till next week or not. Right now, there are some people out there who are weak in all of the above, yet they still have jobs. Yet they still have their position in the world. But without police, they would be asked out and left for dead. Now, you wouldn't even be able to go to work, because when you go to work at CVS, or you go to work at Marlins Stadium, or you go to work at the bar, or you go to work at the Apple store, the first time you get smart with somebody, somebody's going to punch you in the face, and you probably won't want to come back to work, because if you come back and you get smart with the next person, they're going to do it again. Eventually, as we talked about in the episode when getting punched in the face, there's only so many times you want to get punched in the face before you stop doing whatever could possibly lead to that happening. So this is the second benefit of there being no police, is that people with these things being relationships, communication skills, and willingness to defend themselves, they would thrive, and people who lack these things, they will fall to the wayside, and we would just take advantage of all of them just because, why not? Because we can. Point number 3, today's topic once again is the benefits of abolishing police. If we just got rid of all police, what are some benefits that will come from it? Number 3, with no police to fall back on, guess what would happen? Humanity would actually right itself. This would not just go on forever. These first 2 points, what I just talked about, people just getting punched in the face with impunity. This would not just keep going on forever, because then we become barbarians. That wouldn't happen. Here's what would happen. Since there are no police to fall back on, people would get their own shit together. All of us as human beings, we get our own shit together. This is what happened. This would only happen after, first of all, disclaimer, a bunch of people would get killed, a bunch of people would get physically injured, a bunch of people would get beat up, a bunch of people would get attacked. And over time, a bunch of smart individuals will come together, because as human beings, understand as social creatures, we will always, no matter if there are police or not, human beings always congregate around strong leadership people. People who have strong leadership characteristics will always be able to draw an audience, no matter whether they are cops or not. This will always happen. So once all this bloodshed starts to happen, once all these dead bodies start to turn up, once all these things that used to be crimes are no longer crimes, because remember, we don't have police. So your house is getting burglarized, somebody stole your car, somebody snatched your purse, somebody just took your phone out of your hand, took your money, beat you up, and just kept walking. All right, once this happens often enough, a bunch of smart people are going to get together and say, okay, the toll on humanity is a little bit too much right now. All right, society's kind of upside down right now. We can't have this keep going, because eventually we're just going to everybody's going to kill each other. An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind, as the saying goes. So all these smart people would get together. You know what they would decide? They say, you know what we need now after all this? We need rules. We need a system of laws. We need a system of order. We need a way to keep everybody in check. We need a system that everyone agrees to, and everyone is willing to follow, and everyone is willing to accept, so that we can have some civility here. In other words, they will form the police. This is what will happen if we abolish the police. And the moral of this whole thing is, we need police, because even if we abolish them, things will get so crazy, and so many people would get hurt, killed, victimized. So many things would happen if there were no police. Eventually, the smart people who survived all of that would get together and say, all right, we can't keep living like this. This is too much stress and too much anxiety. Let's form rules, laws, and order, i.e. the police. Having the police keeps everybody in order. It keeps people like you and me from smacking the shit out of smart-ass registered people at Walgreens and security guards at baseball games. And the knowledge of police maintains order and safety for everyone, because we all know that the police are there, and it makes everybody feel a little bit more safe despite the few and far between situations where a police officer may be wrong, or you feel like a police officer made a mistake, or a police officer acted recklessly and violated the power that they have in a situation. Without the police, there wouldn't be any mistakes. There would be no police misconduct. There'd be no police abusing their power, but there'd be a whole lot of people getting fucked up with reckless abandon. And trust me, there'd be a lot more people getting fucked up, killed, and hurt if there were no police than there are in the current situation where there are police. So when you are, any of you out here advocating for abolishing the police, first of all, where do you live? Do you live somewhere where abolishing police would actually affect your day-to-day life? If the answer is no, then shut the fuck up. All right. If you're talking about abolishing the police and you don't have a gun, shut the fuck up. If you're talking about abolishing the police and you ain't living in the hood and you ain't been to the hood and you couldn't find your way to it or through it without directions, shut the fuck up. We are not abolishing the police. All right. And there'd be a lot more people getting fucked up, hurt, killed, robbed, stabbed, everything without police than there are with police. All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is the positives of abolishing the police. As I was clear at the beginning, abolishing the police is not only a bad idea, it's a stupid idea. A bad idea means maybe you don't know any better. Stupid idea is you know better, but you're still talking about it. But we're gonna look at this from all sides. We can entertain ridiculous ideas every now and then here on this show. So here are a few benefits. Number one, people who talk stupid because they think nobody will smack them in their faces, now they will get punched in their face and they won't talk stupid anymore. Some of these people need to feel what it feels like to get punched in the face, like I told you a couple days ago. They would get to feel it without police. Number two, anyone who doesn't have strong relationships, strong communication skills, and unwillingness to defend themselves, they will get fucked up. All right, these are critical life skills anyway, but without police, all right, these people would be really in a tough, precarious position. They wouldn't even be able to go to work. Number three, with no police to blame or fall back on, humanity would actually fix itself. Now, this would only happen after a bunch of people got killed, stabbed, robbed, shot, and beat up. And they would realize the toll of all the bloodshed. They would come together and decide that we need rules, laws, and order, and they would form, voila, the police. The moral is we need police. It keeps everybody in order, keeps people like you and me and everyone else from smacking the shit out of everyone else. And the knowledge of police maintains the order and safety of everyone, because we know if we commit a crime that the police may come around and we're going to have to pay for that crime, and not wanting to pay for that crime is what keeps people in check. Despite the few and far between situations where police may be wrong, if there were no police, there'd be many, many more situations where people were getting hurt and there's no one that you can appeal to because there ain't no cops for you to call. So think twice before you talk about abolishing the police. And if you ain't in the hood, shut the hell up. You ain't talking about abolishing no police. All right, go to the hood, live in the hood, then talk about whether you want to abolish police or not. I want you to text me. Tell me the most valuable insight you got from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894. Once again, 305-384-6894. Work on your game. Dre all day.